first of all, to discover the title of our unit, let's have a look at some of these pictures. So you can see in the picture number 1, some students who are getting into a school bag to go to school. In the second picture, we can see a Quranic school in which a group of students are learning religion and Quran. While in the third picture, we have got a modern classroom in which students use computers and laptops to facilitate their learning. In the fourth picture, you see that we have women or elder women. They are in a classroom. Can you guess what are they doing? They are learning. So maybe these women did not have a chance to go to school when they were younger, and now they are fighting what we call literacy, and they are trying to educate themselves through literacy classes. In the fifth picture, you can see a group of students who are celebrating their graduation ceremony. We say that they are holding a diploma in their hands. So this diploma is represented in picture number 6. So a diploma, or what we call a certificate or a degree also, it's an official document given to graduated students after they finish their studies. So as you can see, our unit is going to talk about education. So what is education then? Education is the process of teaching and learning, especially in a school or college, or the knowledge that you get from this. The result can be an educated or literate person, or an uneducated or illiterate person. Which means that when you go to school, when you get education, you become an educated or literate person. However, if you don't attend a school, the result is that you become illiterate, which means you cannot read or write. Good. Now we are going to see from where do we get education. The first picture represents a family, I mean a father and a mother who are teaching their kids and helping them in doing their homework. In the second picture, you can see a group of kids or children playing in a playground. And in the third picture, you can see some students in the classroom with their teacher who is helping them to learn new subjects, new skills, and new information. The last picture, you can see a girl who is using a mean of new technology, which is the laptop. Maybe she is trying to learn from this mean new information and new school subjects. So we can say then that education, we can get education from different sources like family. So family is very important which contributes into educating kids and children. So this kind of education or type of education is called informal education. The second source of education can be also school. So kids and children can go to school. Okay. So the sources of education can be very many and various. Like, for example, the first important source of education can be family. So within our families, we can get a lot of values and beliefs and good behaviors. So this type of education is called informal education. The second type or the second source of education can be school. So Normally, children can go to school to learn different school subjects and different skills and information. This type of education is called informal education. We can also get education from our daily life through playing, for example, we have seen with the previous pictures. So kids can learn new skills and new experiences from their classmates. So this is also a very strong source for education. Nowadays, we can also use the new technology, which is a very primordial source of education, which is technology. We can learn from TV, we can learn from internet through a lot of platforms like, for example, Facebook, YouTube, and other sources of new technology. So, let's have a look at the factors which affect or contribute to a good education. So, the factors which can affect educations are, the first one is family, the second one can be school, the third one can be street, and the fourth one can be technology. So now let's have a look at the Moroccan educational system to have a broad view about how the educational system works in our country. So the Moroccan educational system is characterized by different steps and stages. The first stage is called the kindergarten, in which students or kids at the age of 4 and 6 can attend the school of kindergarten to learn the basic of educations. The second stage is called the primary school. Primary school in Morocco is compulsory at the age of 6. So all the students must go to school at the age of 6. Well, they spend 6 years of course of studies, and then they can move on to the third stage, which is the middle school. The middle school, in the middle school, students can spend 3 years and study different school subjects. After they get or they take an examination or an exam and have got good marks, they can, of course, move on to the next stage, which is called high school. In the high school, students spend almost 3 years. After finishing the 3 years, students are obliged to take what we call the baccalaureate exam. The baccalaureate exam is characterized by having what we call the baccalaureate degree. After they getting this degree, which is the baccalaureate degree, students can have got many choices to take. They can go to university, or there are many other students who can get scholarship, which is a grant given to brilliant students to continue their studies abroad. You see here in this picture a group of students who are what we call graduate students. So the act is to graduate, and the result from graduation is a degree, or what we call a diploma, or a certificate. Now let's have a look at the school buildings and how the schools are constructed, or what are the parts of a normal school. So in a school you can find different places and different parts, like for example the sport field. In the sport field is a place where students can play and enjoy themselves and practice some different sports, like for example football, as in picture number 1. They can also play basketball. They can also play, gymnasium, etc. The school also can contain what we call a schoolyard. A schoolyard is a place where students can take a break from their lessons. After finishing, for example, 2 or 3 sessions, students can have a break and play in the schoolyard. We have also what we call laboratory. A laboratory is a very important part in a school, especially for scientific students, because it's the place where most of the researchers are conducted. The picture number 4 represents what we call a boarding school. What is a boarding school? A boarding school is a school which, for example, facilitates to some students who are living, for example, far from the school. So they can sleep in the school. The school can offer them, for example, lodging, eating, and boarding parts, for example. And the last part in a school is what we call toilets. Now, after having a look at some vocabulary related to education, we are going to have some practice. So we're going to complete the map with the vocabulary already seen and which have relation to education. A mind map is a map which generates ideas out of a topic. So our topic today is education. So I would like you to try to remember all the vocabulary that we have seen together and try to put them into the map. Good. So after a while we can see that we have got a lot of vocabulary related to education, and we have already seen, like, for example, graduate. The verb to graduate or to get a diploma is to have a certificate or a diploma after finishing, for example, higher studies. We have got a degree, which we have already mentioned. A degree is an official document. We can also call it a diploma. This official document is given to graduate students after finishing, of course, their studies. We have got the verb study abroad. To study abroad is to study in another country, not your country. And we have got scholarship. As I have already explained, a scholarship is a grant given or granted to brilliant students to cover the expenses of studies, especially in another country. We have got formal education. You remember formal education. What is formal education? Formal education it's where we can study in an institution, for example, in schools, be it private or public school, and where we can get a diploma or a degree. We have got also to take an exam. To take an exam, we have already given the example of baccalaureate exam. So we can say that students, after finishing their studies in high school, they can take the baccalaureate examination and, of course, take their diploma. So, as you can see, we're going to repeat the vocabulary: graduate, degree, study abroad, scholarship, formal education, take an exam, and we have got here another word, which is research. Remember that a research can be conducted in a laboratory, while, for example, scientific students can conduct researches about, for example, certain physics, chemistry, or biology. Now let's move to some practice, and we're going to start with exercise number 1. Exercise number 1 says, choose the appropriate words from the list to complete the paragraph below. The words that we have in the list are degree, scholarship, graduate, abroad, and research. The text is, at the end of this year, Layla will from high school and get her in plastic arts. As she is a very ambitious girl, she is thinking of going to continue her higher studies and be able to conduct more because there are big libraries there. Layla knows that it's very expensive to study in a foreign country, so she will try to get to cover her expenses. So you see that in this text we have got some gaps. We should, of course, fill in these gaps with the vocabulary given earlier. Nice. So, for the correction, we can say, at the end of this year, Layla will graduate. You remember the verb graduate? It means that she will get her diploma. So we can say at the end of this year, Layla will graduate from high school and get what? Get her degree in plastic arts. As she's a very ambitious girl, she's thinking of going abroad to continue her higher studies and be able to conduct more research because there are big libraries there. Layla knows that it's very expensive to study in a foreign country, so she will try to get a scholarship. You remember, a scholarship is a grant given to cover the expenses of studies. So the right answer here is she will try to get a scholarship to cover her expenses. So I hope it's clear. Now we are going to move to another very easy exercise about vocabulary. Let's have a look. So in this exercise, we're going to find the correct word or phrase for the given definition. We start with definition number 1. So what we call the role where students conduct scientific experiments. And what do we call the place where students play during recreation time? Number 3, what do we call the time between lessons? And the last one, what do we call a set of sheets of papers on which you copy your lessons? So, have you guessed the answers? So the correction is, the room where students conduct scientific experiments is called a laboratory. The second example, the place where students play during recreation time is called a playground. The third example, the time between lessons is called a break. You remember, a break is where students can relax and play together. And number 4, a set of sheets of papers in which you copy your lessons, of course, we call it a copybook. So, thank you very much for your attention and hope to see you in another lesson.